Hey my friend, in today's video I'm going to share with you how you can rapidly overcome anxiety and depression, or any feelings of self-doubt or low mood or any emotional obstacles that are holding you back in your life. I'm going to share with you how you can rapidly overcome those using what I call the R.I.S.E mind training method. R.I.S.E is an acronym that stands for four things. So R stands for recognize. Recognize the trigger. Okay, this is the first step. First, we have to recognize what is it that is triggering these feelings within us. What is it in the external world around us that triggers our anxiety or these feelings? Maybe it's something in your life circumstances. Maybe you don't have enough money. Maybe it's your partner who says something to you and it triggers you. Maybe it's your parents, maybe it's your job, maybe it's your boss, maybe it's someone who cuts in front of you in traffic, or a certain kind of person that annoys you or frustrates you. What is it in your life that is triggering you, okay? That is making these feelings come up, or, maybe you have anxiety a lot of the time, but maybe sometimes it's more intense. Maybe there's times in your life where people or things or circumstances make the anxiety really high. And those are the things that I want you to start recognizing, start thinking about those. And the reason you have to recognize this is because in those moments where we're triggered, what our mind is secretly doing is it's blaming those people and things and circumstances for why that anxiety or stress or whatever is coming up. So in my life, for example, when I really hit rock bottom when I was 20 years old or something, it was when my girlfriend at the time broke up with me. We were together for 2 years and she broke up with me. And that sent me into a deep depression. And for a long time, I blamed her for that, I thought, she left me and that's the reason why I was so depressed and anxious. It's because she left me, she abandoned me. How could she do this to me after all we've been through, blah, blah, blah. And in my mind, I was secretly blaming her. And my depression stayed with me for as long as I was doing that. For as long as I was blaming her for my depression, I stayed depressed. It wasn't until I started taking complete responsibility for my life and how I felt that I started to overcome my anxiety and my depression. Because now, when I recognize the trigger, when I see the thing that is annoying me or upsetting me, I snap out of the vicious cycle of blaming and saying that those things have power over me. Just because something triggers a negative feeling or emotion in you doesn't mean that that thing is the cause of that negative emotion. This requires a lot of self-honesty, a lot of honest self-observation to really understand that nothing outside of you actually has the power to create a feeling inside of you. It seems that way because the external is triggering something inside of us that's making these emotions come up. But that same thing, if it happened to someone else, might not produce those kinds of emotions at all. One thing could make someone feel upset and it make another person feel nothing at all, or it might make another person feel happy, right? So how can that be? How can one situation cause two people to react in totally different ways? Well, the reason is because it's not the thing that makes you feel the way you do. It's what you're holding within. It's what you're thinking, what you're believing, how you're perceiving the situation. That is what really is creating it. So whenever you're triggered by something outside of you, that is your moment to stop and pause and just say to yourself, stop, and get silent for a moment and recognize that your mind in that moment probably wants to blame that thing for why you feel the way you do. And this is how you break the cycle. If you keep allowing that cycle to continue, that cycle of blame, that cycle of not taking responsibility, that cycle of being a victim of outside forces, if you keep that cycle going, it's going to keep reinforcing itself, and it's going to get stronger and stronger and stronger, and it's going to get harder and harder and harder to break that cycle. So you have to start now. Start recognizing those things that trigger you and use those as a moment for you to pause and stop and just take a moment of silence. Now, the next step, we have R, recognize. The next one is I. This one stands for internalize the cause. Internalize the cause, meaning do not blame the external. Go within and internalize the cause and ask yourself, what is it within me that is making me feel this way? Not what the person said to me or what they did to me or what this circumstance is or how I have no money. It's not about any of that. It's about what you're believing and what you're thinking in that moment. And I'll give you an example from my life. Not too long ago, a couple of years ago, me and my girlfriend were struggling financially, like hardcore. I mean, we were like 3 months behind on our rent and had no money. We had no way to make money, really. We had no idea where we were going to get money from. And I got an email one day telling me that my bank account had been overdrafted by like $200. So not only did we have no money and we were 3 months behind on our rent, but I was negative. I had negative money. So we were more than broke. We were more than poor. We had nothing. And in that moment, we could have freaked out. We could have been so stressed and like freaking out. Like, what are we going to do? Where are we going to get this money? Like, we could have been extremely sad and depressed in that situation. That's one way we could have reacted to that situation. But I vividly remember this day because in that moment, I remember I decided to have a new response to that situation. I decided that I was not going to go into victim mode. I wasn't going to get depressed about this. I wasn't going to get sad or upset. And I literally laughed. I laughed out loud. And my girlfriend looked at me like, what are you laughing about? Like, why are you laughing right now? And I said, this is just temporary. And I don't think we have to take this seriously right now. I think we just need to do what we need to do and move forward. But we can still enjoy our lives. Just because this temporary setback has occurred doesn't mean that we can't be happy. It doesn't mean we can't choose to be happy. Like, why do you have to be upset just because something quote unquote bad happens to you? Is there a rule in the rule of life that says you have to be sad when something happens in your external world? There's no rule, there's no law that says that's how you have to react. You have the ability to decide. And in that moment, I decided to internalize the cause and realize that in that moment, it wasn't about my bank account being overdrafted. It wasn't about the fact that I had no money. That was not what was going to make me happy or upset. That was not what was going to do it. I realized that it was me. It was how I chose to perceive the situation. If I chose to perceive it as hopeless and like, oh my God, I'm never going to get over this, or if I chose to see it as just something to deal with, a problem to solve, It can be fun to solve problems, We get to use our creativity. We get to come up with new ideas and go in new directions. There's no rule in life that says you have to react a certain way. So we have to internalize the cause, realize that we are the creators of how we feel by the way we think and perceive things. So once you recognize the trigger, you stop, you pause, you say, no, I'm not going to blame them. What am I thinking, feeling, or believing right now that is making it seem like this is something to be upset about? And could I let that go? This is the next step, the S. We have R, I, and then S. S stands for surrender. Surrender the emotion. So when you go within and try to internalize the cause, you'll realize that there's probably a lot of internal tension in your body. There's a lot of stress floating around in your body and your mind. And in that moment, you have to ask yourself, am I willing to surrender this feeling? Am I willing to let go and stop resisting this situation in my life? Could I let go and just relax and not think anything about this or believe anything about this? Could I surrender this emotion? And how you surrender an emotion is by not trying to control that emotion. When you stop trying to control the emotion, that negative emotional energy starts to dissipate. It starts to leave you. When you stop trying to control it, when you stop trying to change it, when you stop trying to feel better, a lot of people, when they feel upset or depressed, they try to force themselves to feel better. And that doesn't do anything because it just suppresses the emotion. You're not releasing it from your body. So that emotional energy stays trapped within you. And then it's going to come up again later and you're going to feel like crap later on. Even if you can temporarily make yourself feel better, over time, that emotion is still within you, so it's just going to come up, it's going to be triggered by something else, and the next day you're going to be right back where you started. So we have to release the emotional energy, allow that emotional energy to dissipate and leave us. And what happens when we do that is we rise up what I call the emotional density scale. I'll put an image on the screen if you're watching the video version of this. The emotional density scale. All of us live at a certain level on this emotional density scale. And what happens is when we master the art of surrender, is what I call it, the art of surrender, when we master that and we learn how to release our negative feelings, we rise up this emotional density scale, and then we gain the ability to be at peace and to be happy no matter what is happening around us. You see, what makes people miserable is their resistance to everything, their attachments, their resistances, how they fight against life and try to change and control everything. The key to being perfectly at peace in your life is to stop trying to control anything. Even your own emotions. When you're feeling sad or depressed, stop trying to control that emotion and just allow it to be, and to rest and relax into that feeling. This is counterintuitive. This is the opposite of what we think we need to do. But if you practice this, if you try this, I promise it'll change your life in profound ways. Because when you allow an emotion to be what it is and you stop blaming anything for why that emotion exists, and you just go within and you just become aware of it and you allow it to be what it is and you don't fight it or control it. When you do that, you release that emotional energy from yourself and you free yourself to rise to higher emotional states. And suddenly, when you practice this over and over again, suddenly you start feeling so happy and peaceful and confident and free for no reason at all. You could be homeless, not have a job, not have any money, not have any friends. You could have nothing in your life. But if you mastered this one technique, you could literally be completely full of joy and love and happiness, even if you had nothing, even if your life was totally falling apart, even if you had the worst of circumstances, you could still be perfectly at peace. Now, I'm not saying you have to go there. I mean, I don't recommend you go there and give up everything and become homeless. I think we can all have the best of both worlds. But the point is, the external world doesn't control our internal world. We have the power to control how we feel. And the easiest, fastest way to get into higher feeling states, to feel more positive and optimistic and happy and full of joy and freedom and love and peace, to get into those states, we have to master the art of surrender, allowing what we feel to be there and not try to change or control it, okay? Now, the next one is E. E stands for elevate the intention. And this is like reprogramming your mind. So what happens, let's take for an example a common self-help strategy, which is like positive thinking. Maybe you've heard of the power of positive thinking. It's talked a lot about in the self-help personal development world, that you have to think positive. Well, positive thinking doesn't really work for most people. And the reason is because they're trying to add positive thoughts on top of negative emotions. And emotions are always going to be stronger than thoughts. Emotions will always overpower a thought. You can think a positive thought, but if you're feeling really, really depressed in that moment, then that positive thought will have no effect on you. It won't really change anything. You have to release the emotion first. Then you start to feel better. And then the thought is more easily accepted by your mind because that thought is more in alignment with how you're feeling. It's much easier to accept a positive thought when you're already feeling kind of good. It's very difficult to accept a positive thought when you're feeling like crap, because the thought is not in resonance, it's not in alignment with that feeling. So what you have to do to reprogram your mind for happiness and success in life, you have to release the emotion first, get into a better feeling state, then you elevate the intention and you reprogram the mind with a more positive thought or intention. So for example, you're going through your life, you're triggered by something outside of you. Someone says something that makes you feel insecure or something. So you stop, you pause, you don't blame, you go within, you say, why am I feeling this way? Maybe I feel like I'm not good enough, for example. So I feel not good enough. So what does that feel like in my body? What does the emotion feel like? It feels like a tension in my chest, maybe. So go within and feel that emotion and stop trying to change it and just allow it to be. Relax into it, breathe, allow some of that emotional energy to release. Now suddenly you're feeling a little better, right? Now in that moment, now you want to add a positive thought. like, I love and accept myself as I am. I love and accept myself as I am. And that thought allows you to even release more of that emotional energy. But you release the emotional energy first, and that quiets your mind, it calms you, and then the thought can be more easily accepted. And that begins to reprogram your thoughts, make you think differently. It changes your habits of thinking and feeling. And you have to do this repeatedly over time. You follow these 4 steps repeatedly over weeks and months. And every single day you will notice positive improvements, I promise you. This is the exact method that I used when I was struggling with crippling anxiety and self-doubt and depression. I used this to overcome so much in my life. It's so simple, but it's so powerful. So I really hope you'll take this seriously and apply it in your life. If you do, I promise you will notice extraordinary benefits. I do have a master class I'm putting together. I'm not sure if it'll be ready by the time you're watching this video, but I have a master class called the R.I.S.E Method Master Class, where I'll go a little deeper into these things and talk about really what's holding people back in their life and how you can prosper in life and get out of your own way and remove the emotional blocks to success in your life. I go a lot deeper in that master class. So I'll put a link below somewhere, or you can go to perfectlyatpeace.com/rise. That's perfectlyatpeace.com/rise, R-I-S-E. So you can go there if you want to learn more about this R.I.S.E method and learn more about other things that I have to share with you and how I can help you on a deeper level. So I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please leave me a comment below. Please share this video with someone if you think it could help them. Subscribe to my channel, subscribe to my podcast, and I'm really looking forward to being able to serve you and help you live a more peaceful and prosperous life. If you have any questions that you want me to answer in a future episode or a future video, just put them in the comments somewhere or reach out to me, and I'd be happy to answer that for you. So that's all for today. I hope you found it helpful, and I'll talk to you in the next one. Peace.